biggest companies and the most successful companies, when you're looking at sheer numbers, were male driven. But the ones who grew fastest with the most amount of success at the same time were female driven. Welcome to the Spinoso Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Alex Spinoso. My experience is in scaling all types of medical businesses to 7, 8, and 9 figures, and I'm sharing my journey with you. This isn't a podcast telling you you should do this. It is telling you literally what I did. And if that helps you, then great. I want to help you build your business, take ownership of your life, and become a better leader at home and at work. And I'd love to connect with you guys, especially if you're a medical entrepreneur. I have free courses available to you on my website, dralexspinoso.com/courses. You can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, all Dr. Alex Spinoso. And as always, you can find my co-host, Miss Amanda May, at Amanda May Beauty Boss. And where else can they find you? They just pretty much Google your name, right?
Yeah, AmandaMayBeauty.com. And
Beautiful.
yeah, there's a few actually Amanda Mays.
Are they?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I
None
guess
of us look the same, so
Yeah. Yeah,
that's a good thing.
You're not related to each other at all. That's hilarious.
Yeah, so that's how they find me.
I love it. You've got, what was that, cheetah print today?
Yeah,
I gotta make sure
actually-
I said the right animal.
I'm feeling very animal printish.
Okay.
I have, for the next podcast we're filming,
Yeah.
I have a leopard dress.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I went totally animal.
That's
vibes.
awesome. I actually have that same print I'm wearing right now in my G-string.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I bet that's fantastic.
It is. It really is. It's mobile. It makes me move quickly.
Mhm.
And really, cheetah's the fastest animal. So essentially, that's what I embody and live every single day.
Yeah, I think if everybody has underwear like that, it's going to make them successful in business.
Absolutely. There's really no doubt. Yeah, you don't see people going around wearing llama underwear. No.
Those are
Sheep
boring.
underwear. No. You make sure you wear predator underwear every single day. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you should see my eagle underwear. It's got a whole beak and everything in the front. It's awesome. Let's get into it. What are we talking about today?
Moms versus dads.
Okay, I like this. Yeah.
Reminds me of those. Did you ever play with was it pop socket? No, like do you remember the little
pop
the
sockets.
guys in the
Yeah, it's
in
Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
That's it.
Yeah. Oh, heck yeah, I did.
Moms
like,
versus dads.
your thumb's going a million miles an hour and you're trying to shake the thing and you get angry every time you lose. Trust me, I played that. Yeah, 100%.
I did too.
That's
I did
awesome.
Too. It's
Okay.
some of those fun toys from before. So moms versus dads.
We're gonna challenge each other. Let's do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a new mom. I'm a new dad. Let's talk. Let's talk through this stuff.
We both welcomed baby girls.
Mhm.
You very, very recently. It's been 3 weeks?
Yeah, 3 weeks now. Mm-hmm.
And me 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little further along in this year, but goodness, there's been so many things. And the way that we've discussed before about the differences between moms and dads and how we experience new life in relationship to how we connect with the babies, the roles as an entrepreneur and having a new baby in your world while you're still working, and just the dynamics that happen. So food for thought on, moms or dads going through having families and building a business at the same time. That's what we're going to get into today.
Let's do it. Yeah, it's totally different. I think it's totally different.
I would agree. We agree on that.
Yeah, we agree on
sure.
that. Let's do it.
So first, I think it'd be fun to talk a little bit about the humor that goes into even the pregnancy process.
Yeah.
That 9 months leading up to welcoming the baby, before Camilla showed up in the world and before Elia showed up in the world, there's a whole period of getting ready for the baby.
Right.
And the experience of mom and dad, the difference is there.
Mm-hmm.
So for you during the pregnancy, was there anything that changed or anything funny that you can kind of share about that process?
Honestly, between the birth of the triplets and between Camilla's birth, it was completely different. So with the birth of the triplets, we couldn't really afford much still. They're 2.5, almost 3. They're going to turn 3 in December of this year. And we couldn't afford a lot. Like we were putting everything we could back into the business. We could have probably afforded the same things that we pay for now, but we would have been like pretty much house poor and stupid toys poor and porta potty poor, stuff like that.
And 3 babies is
Yeah.
a lot more to provide for
Yeah,
than
it
1.
sucks. It literally sucks. You
Yeah.
got to buy the same shit 3 times. Every Everything. Literally everything you have to buy fucking 3 times. It's really annoying. And now that they're old enough to recognize toys and stuff like that, my business partner Brent, he taught me because he's got 3 boys. They're not triplets, but they're close enough in age. They're like 2 to 3 years apart from each other. He's like, if you buy one thing for one, buy the same fucking thing for the other 2. Because if you ever buy anything different for the other 2, it's going to be an absolute shit show. And my wife
Oh.
just doesn't fucking get that. She loves to buy different shit. Well, of course, she buys the girl shit, pink stuff and stuff for Bella. And Bella's word out of everything is pink, 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 pink. And she knows that anything pink is hers. And then the boys, they'll just fight over everything.
Mm.
So they all like fight over each other's toys consistently. We got the boys' Bluey shirts the other day, and Bella was super crushed that she didn't get a Bluey shirt. We got We got Bella a Minnie outfit the other day, and the boys were super pissed off they didn't get Mickey outfits. So it is just a disaster every time. But we couldn't afford to do like their rooms or their bedrooms or anything like that. So my wife this time made Camilla's room like it's fucking Instagram.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, Instagram worthy. It's straight up. You walk in there, it looks like a unicorn vomited all over the fucking walls and the floor and everything like that.
The
It's
color
everything.
is beautiful. It's not unicorn colors.
Yeah.
It's not like bright pink and bright purple.
Exactly.
And, it's still soft, muted pink.
Yeah, it's like
done
soft
very
pink.
classy.
It's like soft pink. It's like middle-aged white woman pink.
Yeah.
Like it's like this is the natural color of the bedroom. It needs to have the white crib with the right. She's got like this $200 unicorn basket for laundry. It's like it's cute as fuck. I'm not gonna lie, but it's stupid at the same time. So it's very chic and pretty and so that was funny because she was nesting. The first time it was just like we were moving from the high rise that we lived in that was 2-bedroom, and the babies didn't have their own bedroom, so there wasn't any nesting. It was like we had to rush and find this house. We were lucky enough to find it, and we bought it literally the next day after it came on the market, and we were lucky enough to beat out another offer. And so we got in and we just kind of threw the kids in their room, and their rooms still are on fish till this day. Like Leo's got like a picture of a lion on the wall. He doesn't give a fuck about anything though. and some tractors. That's it. We just put those up. So we started to go back, but she couldn't do that. So this time there was Amazon boxes literally coming every day with different things and little toys and a 6-foot giraffe and shit like that to the house. And when we were done, when she was done, there was nothing else to buy. There was no Amazon packages like being delivered. And Steph was like, "Well, there's nothing that came in the mail today." It's like, no, just because you didn't get a fucking Amazon package doesn't mean we didn't get mail. Like that's not mail today.
It's like Christmas every day.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the big differences between the first one and the second one. How about you? You're separated by 20 years of your boy and now a little girl.
I don't even really remember the first time.
Really?
I mean, it was so long ago.
Yeah. I can't remember what I did last week. 20 fucking
20
years.
years.
Yeah.
But what I do think is interesting about when I ask you the question, how was like the pregnancy part for you?
Mhm.
You went to getting things set up and like the home prepared and having a space and things like that, where immediately my mind goes to gaining weight and
Yeah. I didn't have to worry about any of that.
and my hormones changing and feeling like super sad at one moment and then super happy and the world's fantastic the next. Like it literally is like a roller coaster of emotion. And then heartburn was like next level, but I love hot sauce.
Okay.
So I eat probably, I've slowed down on my hot sauce craves, but I probably go through a a decent sized container of Cholula
Okay.
every week. Cause I just like, it's like, do
Yeah.
you want some food with your hot sauce kind of
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I kept eating that. And then I would just ask my OBGYN, like, what can I do to help with heartburn?
Yeah.
And she's like,
Stop
don't
fucking
eat,
drinking Cholula.
don't eat hot sauce. Um, but I think about that. So for me, sleep changed. And so as I got a little further along, you can't sleep on your back. Well, you can't sleep directly on your back as you get really far along. But, I'm a stomach sleeper. So I couldn't sleep on my stomach anymore. So I had to sleep on my side. And that was interesting. And then I'm propped in pillows, which, I've got, as I'm getting bigger, I'm propped in pillows, which
Do you have like
means that Sean
what kind of
is,
pillows? Do you have a special pillow? Do you have a
yeah, it
special
was like it was
body
like
pillow?
flat between or like under my body, and then it was like these wedges on the front and back,
Okay.
which is super fun if you want to get a little bit busy with your partner. So Sean, I'm like having to move them out of the way. I'm like, oh, hold on a second,
Yeah.
let me
Hold on,
move.
I gotta move my 17 pillows. Here we go.
Okay,
We're
now
trying to make this baby
okay,
come.
now you can
Yeah,
kiss
trying to make this
me.
baby arrive. Like, let's do this. Okay.
So that was always fun. So we slept a little further apart, and then
That's hilarious.
yeah, I think for me, the pregnancy part was like every day looking at like, oh, my pants are getting even tighter and I can't wear this thing anymore. Though I didn't buy a ton of pregnancy clothing because I had enough tights that I could just change them out with some basic t-shirts, and it seemed to work fine. Um, so yeah, as far as the pregnancy experience and our differences, you're getting the house ready and I'm just maintaining, some sort of sanity with my own body and being comfortable with how I felt. And I remember times I'd be up at like 2 o'clock in the morning eating ice cream because the heartburn was so bad. But that was kind of fun.
That's
Yeah.
but that's
But
still all
like
your fault.
even
Like
like
you make those
working,
decisions
yeah,
and you're like, fuck
I
it.
know. Even like working out, like that's something I really, love doing.
Uh-huh.
And so like that changed. So during the pregnancy, there's a lot that changes.
Mhm.
And I will say just for the funny part, and I've heard many, many women say it, so I know it's not just me. I had never really farted in front of Sean.
Yeah.
And then, later in the pregnancy, it's like you can't even help it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
everything's just it is what
Just
it
like
is. And so,
kicking shit out of your body
like I
and
roll
stuff.
over in bed and I'm just like, oh, sorry.
Yeah. Oh God. What was that? There's a
Yeah.
frog in here.
Which was terrible. The first time I was so embarrassed. And then
Yeah.
after that, I was like, I can't.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just
There's
I can't do
nothing I
anything
can
about
do
it.
about this.
Can't do anything about it. But I've heard all women say that. So.
Yeah.
And then I looked it up online. Like, is it
Is
yeah.
this
It's
actually like is this
actually
just
like
me?
hormones that relax that part of the body,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
But interesting enough, he did say, so this is I'm curious if you experience the same thing.
Okay.
Sean did say he noticed changes with his own hormones, which is
Mhm.
probably where like the whole dad bod or,
Yeah.
thing comes in, because he's very in tune with his body because the way he eats and his training schedule and stuff like that. So he noticed like even feeling a little more tired at certain times in my pregnancy, or like holding on to more water weight during certain times in my pregnancy.
Yeah.
So he really felt like his hormones were changing, not as dramatically as mine,
Yeah.
but in some cases as well.
Yeah, I'd have to see if there's like actual studies about that. I don't know, but I do, I'm the same, very in tune with like my body and my hormones and everything like that because I've had to kind of monitor them since I was 31 years old. And it is very different when Steph's pregnant. And it's not because she doesn't eat shit or anything like that when she's pregnant. She doesn't crave anything. She doesn't have anything weird that she eats or anything like that. She just eats a little bit more. But
Mhm.
even then, she didn't gain a ton of weight for the first pregnancy with the triplets, didn't gain a ton of weight for the second pregnancy. She's always been very strict on her diet and what she eats and organic this and that and everything like that, very healthy. So we didn't eat a lot of shit or anything like that, but you do get like more exhausted. But I
Mhm.
think, I mean, she slept like a fucking lion through the first trimester both times, like 20 fucking hours a day. It
Yeah,
was
I
like
remember
a
that.
pain in the ass for her to get out of bed. She would drag herself around like she was just absolutely fucking exhausted. And she has the worst luck during pregnancy.
Mm.
So I don't know like how your luck is during pregnancy, but every time she doesn't want to get pregnant again because something inevitably fucking horrible will happen.
Well, yeah, this time she
Yeah.
broke her kneecap.
Yeah. So
Like,
she
that
broke her
was,
kneecap this time.
like,
The first time
extreme.
she got Bell's palsy and it freaked her
Oh,
out.
yeah,
So
I
Bell's palsy is
remember
when
her
half of your
saying that.
face goes like completely flaccid because the nerves stop working. So she
Ooh.
got that the first time.
And that just totally resolves itself
And
after.
yeah, well, you hope. Yeah,
Oh,
hope.
okay.
So we did like, we made sure we went to acupuncture and all of these holistic doctors and stuff. Cause other than that, there's really no treatments for it. So there's some medication, some steroids, and then you hope for the fucking best. That's
Mhm.
literally the treatment for the diagnosis. So she freaked out because, half of her face is like melted. And my sister, who is, trained as a nurse and works for us, she noticed it and she just freaked out. She's like, "You're having a stroke." Like, and I'm just like, calm the fuck down. Like, you're freaking her out, freaked her out. Like, she had Bell's palsy. Luckily, it went away and she resolved.
Mhm.
It's completely resolved. But that was the first pregnancy. The second pregnancy, you're right. She fell in the bathroom and cracked her kneecap directly fucking in half. So she had to have surgery to, I reduced it while we were there. This was during our corporate event in Cancun. We essentially had to get a first class flight out. This was at midnight that she fell. I run down the hallway, bang on Brent's door, wake him up and be like, "Dude, I fucking need you. Steph broke her leg. Like, I need your fucking help to lift this girl." So I reduce it and we Brent and I lift her up and pull her out of the bathroom because she's still in the bathroom at this time. And it was funny. She's like, "Put some clothes on me before Brent gets over here." So I put some underwear on her and a t-shirt on her, and I was like, "Okay." And her leg was folded underneath her, so I like
Ooh.
pulled the leg straight and reduced it. And immediately, I felt the kneecap. I could see that it was split, so I felt it, and I could feel the palpable gap between her kneecap, her
Mm.
upper pole, and her lower pole of the kneecap itself. And I was like, fuck, damn it. So I fucking run down the street or run down the hallway, bang on Brent's door, get him over. We pull her out of the bathroom. We call the ambulance. The ambulance comes, grabs her. And it's funny because I had to argue with the ambulance people too, or the hotel, because the hotel's like, "Well, what does she need? Can she, walk to the golf cart?" I'm like, "Motherfucker, call the fucking ambulance right now. Like, I'm a fucking doctor. Get a stretcher up here because she's not gonna be able to walk. She can't crutch. Like, we're on the second floor. Just fucking get somebody over here, like,
Yeah,
now."
yeah.
And then I'm teaching them how to fucking splint this leg in Mexico. And we get to the hospital. We take X-rays. There's probably a good inch gap, which is a
Ooh.
huge gap between the upper pole, lower pole. There was already retraction, and so they're trying to wrap her, and they wrap her like fucking idiots. They're using like this wrap that just kind of falls apart, like cast wrap. So inside the inside cast, there's always like a really soft wrap, and then they put the plastered cast around that. So they're putting this like really soft wrap on her. They don't actually plan on casting her. They're just trying to straight brace her. And I'm like, what the fuck you gonna like? What are you gonna do with that? Because they were putting an ace bandage around it. I was like, we need to keep it straight right now to make sure she's ready for surgery. So I had to teach them what type of straight leg brace to use. And I'm bracing it in the hospital in Mexico. And then I was like, we need to get the fuck out of here. There's no way we could stay here, because they're like, "Oh yeah, ortho will come see you tomorrow." And I'm like, okay, well, this is probably not the best idea to be in Mexico and get this treatment done now. There's a bunch of other things that they're good at. We went to IVF there and everything, but emergency orthopedic surgery, definitely not the fucking best place to be.
Yeah.
So we buy a first class. I buy a first class flight because I couldn't get a life flight jet out there in time to bring her back. That was worth it. It would have been like $40K, and we had the money, but to scramble a jet that was in the States in the morning, get to us and come back, we would have been back in Dallas by maybe noon, and I could get a 5 a.m. first class flight out and be in Dallas by like 7 and at the hospital by 8.
Oh, yeah.
So fuck it. I bought a first class flight and I stayed in economy because there was only one, first class seat. We propped her leg up. Thank God the guy in front of her was so sweet about helping her prop her leg up in on his like armrest. I'm like, fuck, these people are great. And we got her back home and into the hospital, and she had that was on like Saturday morning, and on Sunday she had her surgery. She had one pin and a bunch of sutures to put the kneecap back together, and now she's pretty much got almost full range of motion now. She's a couple degrees off of full range of motion, and she's walking. She can't exercise now because she had the fucking baby. She had the
Yeah.
C-section, so she's still got another 6 weeks before she can really kind of run or exercise or anything like that. But that was the first pregnancy. Um, so yeah,
Wow. I mean, crazy because she went through all of this while being pregnant. And the first pregnancy with the first situation and then this pregnancy with that one. I mean, I can't imagine knowing what you go through in a regular pregnancy without any of those things happening. That added stress or pressure is probably a lot. So
yeah.
she's a tough cookie.
No,
She is a tough cookie.
she's absolutely insane.
So no, I don't have any of those types of stories. I think I've been very blessed with very smooth pregnancies. Both times I didn't have any health issues or any concerns that ended up needing any attention. So that was a blessing. Um, so let's talk about the experience of a new baby,
Yes,
the
let's
dynamics
do
of
it.
how we relate to the new child in our life and how we think maybe that's different between moms and dads.
We hear this all the time, and I hear this all the time. Birth is so magical. And look, I worked at 29 Palms military base in Southern California, out in the middle of fucking nowhere. And I was lucky enough to do my OB rotations there. And during my residency, actually, gosh, really 9 months after a deployment came back. So we delivered something like 300 babies in like 45 days. It was
Wow.
fucking insane. And then when I did my OB rotation, I did it in Brooklyn, New York, and at a like a government hospital. So again, all types of different babies, crack babies, rich babies. It was it was insane. And so I've delivered a lot of babies, and let me tell you, fucking birth is fucking gross. I don't like, yeah, it's so beautiful. No, it's fucking not. It's slimy and gooey and smells fucking weird. And yeah, I just think it's gross. Thank God I'm not an OB. Okay. Cause I'd be like, no, your baby's gross. Like, it's just disgusting. But the dynamics, I think, afterwards are very different because when my triplets were born, I had to go back to work. And because one of my providers had quit literally during the holidays, and I went back and worked at four different clinics at that time when right after they were born.
Mm.
So I left my wife in the hospital. I was working at the clinics. I came and saw her at night and stayed the night in the hospital and went back to work in the morning. And then when we brought Isabella home, we still had the two boys in the NICU. So the two boys we would go see just at night. And so Steph had a hard time bonding with the boys, and she still thinks like the boys hate her to this day because she didn't get to bond with them. They were in the NICU. And I didn't feel any real bond with the boy, even Isabella, because she was at home. I didn't feel any real bond with them for probably more than 6 months at all. And this time when Camilla was born, I had the luxury, if you will, of being able to be home for like a week. Again, there's no fucking paternity leave when you're an entrepreneur. I'm sorry. Um, Same for maternity leave. Like if you're running a business, you're doing your thing. You're fucking working at home, in the hospital, whatever, after you give birth. So she wanted me to stay home for a week so I can like bond because I didn't get a chance to bond with the triplets. And she said, you didn't get that last time. She knew I didn't get that last time because we talked about it. And so this time I had it, and we stayed home and everything, but the feeling was exactly the same. It wasn't any different. It wasn't like I got to bond with her more or anything like that more. I got to see her and hold her way more and feed her way more. But I think from a parental standpoint, there was no real bond there either. And it was just kind of like, hey, this is, almost animalistic, where it's like, this is something else that's part of my family. Now I have to feed it and make sure it's taken care of. So I'm focused on how I feed it and take care of it rather than like bonding with it or feeding it or anything like that. Cause I didn't have to do any of that shit, truly. I mean, my body isn't made to produce milk or anything like that for the baby or the offspring. My job is to go fucking protect the offspring and make sure that the offspring stays alive and that my wife stays alive, going back to hunter gatherer type shit.
Mhm.
And so I didn't, I mean, I didn't feel that with Camila either. And Steph was like, do you feel like you really got to bond with her this time and things like that? Now that it's 3 weeks in and I've spent a lot more time with her than I did the triplets. And it's not sad because I've come to grips with it, but it's a realization that I have felt completely the same. Like I feel no different. I feel no extra bonded to her because I was around more or there more or present more
Mm.
with them than I were the triplets at all. It's really been no different at all. And I've talked to a couple other dads about this because you always look on Instagram and social media and they're like, oh, it's beautiful and bonding. And you have these dads that are crying when they get, pregnancy announcements and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't fucking get that. Like, like, I get it. Maybe people have had difficulty getting pregnant or whatever, but like, when the only time I got teary-eyed or cried the entire time was when we announced the pregnancy to my parents, who wanted, grandbabies for fucking ever, and they got really emotional, so I got emotional, but other than that, like, during the pregnancy, I wasn't emotional. The announcement, I wasn't emotional. Like getting the IVF, when she got the IVF actually done, she got emotional. Um, I was just like, cool, can we go eat now? Um, and even during like the birth afterwards, like I never really got emotional.
Mm.
Like it's great. Like I love it. I love my kids, but it was very, very different for me. And I think for most fathers, and you look on Instagram and you're like, these dudes fucking crying and shit. And I'm like, I don't know if I could like that's just not, I don't know if, I don't want to say that's stupid because it's not. It just wasn't me. It wasn't my experience. It wasn't my feeling. And I think a lot of guys don't feel that way, but they feel like they're stupid or they somehow don't bond well or whatever. And I think that's just normal. I think it's because we're mammals, we're like
Mm.
animalistic. It's just we're the protector. That being said, from that's my point of view with the men and everything like that and what I experienced, go through, I mean, your experience, it's got to be way different. You were just like, well, fuck it. Like, this is something else I got to take care of. Right.
Well,
Like, because I know
interesting.
that, because I know you're like, okay, like Star Child, Stones, Wusaw, everything like that. It's got to be more of what they describe as the magic of it and the beauty of it and everything. When I'm just like, this is a slimy little thing that I have to take care of.
Well, I would say I fall somewhere in the middle because I'm not super emotional anyway. Um, and I even remember that with my son. Like, I, when they were born, him and Elia both, like, there was like a love, like, oh wow, this is a human being. So almost the magical side of like, that human being was inside me for 9 months. Like, whoa, like that part's kind of crazy to even think about. And so that part of it was a magical thought, like that I actually created this human being. But as far as like immediate connection or feeling like this immediate tie, like I didn't necessarily have that. Not to the extent that I think some women do. Um, I tend to be more entrepreneurial anyway throughout my whole life. So knowing like I got work I have to do. There's a little bit of that. I don't necessarily just relax and take a breather, maybe like some women can or do. And so I think the difference with Elia this time was I breastfed. So being able to connect with her during the breastfeeding, that made more connection for
Hmm.
her. And I think that's when the oxytocin release would happen, and there would be moments then I would like cry or just like well, thank you for showing up.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be really amazing. But I wasn't super emotional the whole time. But I also think that this time, and I just don't remember with Isaac, I had a little bit of depression with her.
Mm.
And I don't know if there was a like just such a difference between having a boy versus having a girl and the hormones that are in, going on with my body, or being older and having a baby, like if that changed the situation some. But that first 6 weeks was difficult. Like, I didn't have any guests. We had no guests at the house for 6 weeks
Mhm.
because I just was like, I can't. Like, I'm figuring out breastfeeding and, what she needs and who she is, and resting and recovering because I also had a C-section. So it was just a lot. And then also really feeling the pressure to like handle work things that I needed to handle, and then sleep as much as I possibly could. So, there was this pressure I think I felt too, that didn't make it like, oh, I can just sit here and be like, oh, my baby the whole
Yeah.
time. Now, speaking of from like a dad perspective, Sean cried. I didn't cry when we had her.
Damn it, Sean. Damn it, Sean.
I was like happy that he was having this experience because it's his first child, and
Mhm.
he has wanted to be a dad for a very long time. And so at 38, it's like he's finally gets to have this experience. And so I look over and he's got his mask on from the hospital and it's soaked, like he's just
Bawling.
and
He's not crying. He's bawling.
yeah, and
Okay.
I didn't cry at
Yeah,
all.
yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
like,
What the fuck is wrong with you? I'm the
There-
one over here pushing this thing out.
well, and even like even in the hospital, I remember being very frustrated about things because I wanted to sleep, and I didn't understand why they were coming in so
Every
often.
fucking hour to check the baby.
And
Mhm.
he's like, I remember saying, which doesn't sound great now, but I remember saying like the lactation ladies, I'm like, I don't like them. And he's like, that's not nice. Like, why are you?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
I think they need to just leave me alone.
Yeah.
And so, which they probably could have helped if I was open to it. But I
Right.
just, you go through a lot. I think as a woman, it's like, it's just so much,
Yeah.
that I think I handled it with grace, but it wasn't like now I just have this baby I can like coddle and love. And,
Yeah.
it was, I felt more pressure for
Yeah.
sure. So
Absolutely.
I think I'm somewhere in the middle. Like, I have some of the magic moments, but I also have some of those like, okay, now I got to figure out what do we need still at the house that I haven't purchased. And, like, what is it that she needs? And I remember not making enough breast milk to feed her. So she's
Yeah.
starting to eat more and more, and
Yeah.
I'm not producing. And I'm like crying. And I'm like, my baby's gonna starve to death, as if there's no other solutions anywhere on the planet.
Yeah, yeah.
So I remember being upset, and I called Steph, and I'm like, your wife, and I'm
Uh-huh.
like, my baby's gonna starve to death. And she's like, not really, because I have formula if you
Yeah.
want to come pick it up.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I knew I didn't want to feed her regular formula.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
like
we got
I-
super special fucking formula.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
all,
I
like,
came
all
to
different
your
types of
house and
super special fucking formula.
I picked up some formula, and then I was like, oh, okay, so life's okay. She's gonna eat,
Uh-huh.
she's not gonna starve to death.
Yeah.
And so I supplement, but that was a whole nother emotional experience. And it wasn't so much about bonding with her as much as like providing what she needed. Like, could I provide enough breast milk? And then getting over the idea that I couldn't, and that it was going to be okay to supplement and do both.
Yeah.
Because in my head, I had created this magical picture of breastfeeding, and that's
Till
all
she
I
was
was going to
7.
do. Yeah, no, not 7. We're going for a year.
Yeah.
But so now I just pump. But anyway, all of those changes, it's like I had fantasized in my mind about how things were going to go.
Yeah.
They didn't go that way. So I think that added to some of like the depression that I felt. So the emotional roller coaster is like next level
Yeah.
for a woman
So-
during that time.
Emotional roller coasters, depression, bouts of indigestion, like up and down, not going the way it was planned. It sounds exactly like fucking entrepreneurship to me.
Yeah.
It's
Yes, it does.
literally exactly the same. It's not the same from the male point of view where it's just like, whatever, you got to do this. What it's exactly what you're feeling is exactly what entrepreneurship is like. That's for fucking sure. I
Yeah.
had difficulty breastfeeding, and so I didn't get that oxytocin lay down like you.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Which
it's just
understandable, right?
yeah,
6 months. That's why you didn't connect with your kids for six
yeah,
months.
yeah. Now that
If you
they're
could breastfeed, that would
now
be
they're two
totally
and a
different.
half, so I breastfeed them every other day, and I mean they're fine.
And you get your oxytocin
I get my
boost.
oxytocin boost with that.
Yeah, it's perfect. You
Yeah.
don't need it any other way.
No, that's the way you do it. Yep. And Leo just ran by the studio with his dick out because he's potty training. There he goes. Okay. The joys of having triplets and a newborn.
I love it.
So when it comes to you know, I don't want to be I don't want to have gross generalizations about everything, but the truth is men are different from women. I don't care what the fuck you see in the news or in Instagram or whatever. So, how do you think the differences in how you related to Elia and how I relate to the triplets or Camilla, how do you think that affects like your leadership? And maybe even talk about how like raising Isaac, because that's a different time, different things were available, different lessons that you learned in your 20s versus now your late 20s. How is how's that changed?
Yeah, well, from a leadership level, it's an interesting thing because I think what you said earlier, like as an entrepreneur, you don't have time off. Like having a baby doesn't necessarily mean things stop for you. You keep going, you know?
Hmm.
Um, and so when it comes to connecting with other people, um, I feel like from a feminine standpoint, like how you would connect with your child is kind of how you connect with the people that you work with.
Hmm.
So there's more of a human approach to it. Like I care about things that are going on in your life. I'm compassionate about things that somebody's experiencing that works with us on our team. Like if I hear somebody's going through something, there's a level of like compassion and care and nurturing that wants to happen and even like nurturing the relationships with like with you with Brent. There's a nurturing that's natural for me as a woman and that's being general for women. It's like there's a role within an organization that's a more nurturing role for
Hmm.
a female to be in, a more soft, understanding, supportive, still can be a leader but a supportive leader kind of role. And I think that that's different with like what I've heard you talk about. It's your family. You talk about Genesis as your family and you're taking care of everybody. It's very much how you are describing setting up the baby's room. It's like you have this person to take care of. It's another person in the family to make sure eats and is safe and is cared for. And that's what you're doing essentially in the business that you have. It's like you're making sure people are taken care of and that they've got food on their table. And so, where I might press in a little bit more into the relationship side and building and nurturing that, it seems like for you, at least from my viewpoint, you're more like, let me make sure these people are taken care of with this company.
Yeah. I mean, with how I operate business, you're absolutely right. It's a family, and so I have to protect my family, and I'm much less nurturing. I'm more of the pushing the baby bird out of the nest to make sure they fucking learn how to fly. And I tell a lot of my employees all the time, like, I'm going to push you to the edge and then I'm going to push you over your edge. And then we're going to see where your limits are. And I'm going to consistently push that, but you're going to grow and you're going to do great things. And if you don't want to do that, then go somewhere else. Cause I want to really make sure that you are becoming the best that you could possibly be, grow to be the best that you could possibly be. And that's not for everybody. And that's totally fine. It's just, if you're not going to be like that, this isn't for you here. And I think that's really important that as a business owner, you have other aspects to your executives or your C-suite as you grow and have, female presence. And like you're saying, most of our employees are 90% female. I mean, really, they are. We have 10% male, 90% female. It's just the way that the med spa world, medical clinic world is kind of dominated in that aspect. We're not specialists. The specialist world is more males and things like that. But in our world, it's a lot more nurse practitioners, physician assistants, everything like that. Very female dominated. So you have to be, and I've had to learn to speak in a much different language to them that I do, the men in the company. And so when I address the entire company, I have to be cognizant of both. And as a leader, you have to be cognizant of both. And so having Bella is very different than having the boys. And now Camilla, I haven't been able to yell at Camilla yet. I'm just waiting for the day to be able to. But that being said, as very different if I yell at Bella than I yell at Gio or Leo. And I think that's just partially genetics. You just naturally yell less at something that's more delicate, I think. But at the same time, you see how much quicker she gets emotional than the boys. Like I'll yell at her at a lower voice and she'll have her little pouty face and stuff like that and start to cry because she doesn't like to get yelled at. When at the same time, the boys will be like, ha, fuck you. And, with both fingers up and run away, sort of thing. And it's very
Mm.
different talking with them and who has to be essentially the leader of the pack because it's still animalistic behavior. They're just pure animals. They'll say and do whatever the fuck they want, and there's no holds barred or nothing like that. And it's just how it is. So when you're a family, when you're a leader, as you're running your business, guys, you have to realize that you have to be a fucking pack leader. You have to be. You have to be the person who might be unreasonable sometimes or difficult to work for or demanding because in the end, that's what's going to push it over to the next level. And for females, if you're out there, yeah, you'll probably be called a bitch multiple times if you're stepping into that role. But guess what? That's what the head of the company has to do. The leader has to do. And I don't want to say alpha because that's so fucking overused and
Mhm.
really fucking dumb. But that's what really the tip of the spear needs to do. The head needs to do. Everybody needs to know that, hey, if I'm fighting for this general is going to go to war with me.
Mm.
And that's just how I've always ran my business and always been a leader in that role because my dad was the same way and is the same way. And I think that's just how a lot of times men will operate business. And you're absolutely right that the females have a lot more, I would say, tact and emotional intelligence, which is way more important. And I believe there was a book written, and I'd have to find the actual name of the book, but they did studies. This gentleman did studies over the last, I think, 50 years. Took all of the Fortune 500s, all the companies that were the 20 most prosperous companies over the last 20 years, and looked into their growth and their ability to scale and their ability to win. And the companies that grew the fastest and had the most amount of success based off of data over time. So the biggest companies and the most successful companies when you're looking at sheer numbers were male driven. But the ones who grew fastest with the most amount of success at the same time were female driven.
Mm.
So it's very different to see that. And that was, in data. And fuck, I have to look it up. There was a book that I read. There was a whole book about it. And I'd have to see if I can pull it up. Hold on. And I remember the book. It's Good to Great by Jim Collins. And the title is Why Some Companies Make the Leap and Others Don't. And in that book, he explains that fact, simply that having female presence or having a female leader led to much quicker, much greater growth than having a male leader. And I think it's partially open to ideas, open to change, open to differences, and having that
Mm.
supportive leader. I think it's part of that. But again, you also have to be a very strong, very tough leader, no matter what business you're in.
Yeah. So how do you feel like Bella I mean, we both have boys. We love our boys. But Bella and now Camila, having girls, and especially based off what you said with Bella getting emotional if you yell at her, how do you feel like having her has changed your approach to business and entrepreneurship?
I think it's taught me to speak softer sometimes to people, but I think I kind of learned that before having Bella because of just having female staff members and female clients and everything like that. You can't be like, yeah, we're gonna fucking take the hill and kill everyone. And there'll be blood and guts everywhere. Fuck it, let's go. Because females don't really react as well to that. Some do, but not most.
Yeah.
So having a conversation and being open to that more nurturing, gentle side, or just a way of speaking to females and female staff members has been an art and a learned thing that you fuck up over and over and over at the beginning, and I still fuck up every once in a while. But I think that really was already started. And then when you had Bella, you can really see from a developmental point of view how males and females are very, very different. My boys from Bella, she's very soft, very kind, very loving, gentle with the puppies, gentle with her brothers, kisses her brothers, hugs her brothers. The brothers are pulling on each other's dicks and punching each other in the face and biting the dog and shit like that. So completely fucking opposite.
Oh, wow, that's fun. I have only had one at a time, so I don't know what it's like to have two boys in the house. But I will say with Isaac, one of the things as he got older and certainly into his teen years, recognizing his need for respect and giving him the space to make his own decisions, even if it was something I didn't agree with. But, as long as it wasn't going to harm him in any way, allowing him to decide for himself and then live those consequences. And I
Mm,
think that was a learning for me getting into a role where I was supporting men in business. It was like that natural uh, innate desire and need. I think it's not even just a desire, it's a need for men to feel respected. And so even if I have a different opinion, sometimes just allowing the space to like, okay, like we'll do that. I'll support that and let's see what happens.
okay.
And
But you're wrong.
and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Um, but even just respect and tone and the way I speak to him. And Isaac's he's emotionally intelligent, so
Mm,
he at a very early age, like early teens, he would tell me like, why are you talking to me that way, or I didn't like how that felt the way you said that. Like he
okay.
would tell me those things.
Wow.
And the reason he told me those things because I gave him space to tell me those things.
Mm-hmm.
So, I would, you're right. That's not respectful. I should have said it like this. And I would correct myself. Um, and so giving him the space of that too. But, and I think so, him being a teenage boy and me seeing what he needed has helped me learn how to be in a more, let's say, cohesive or more of a flow working with men in business
Oh,
where
that's
it's
super
not like
important.
boss,
Yeah,
like
I never
this
thought of it that way.
boss babe,
Yeah.
thing that's going
You're
on.
just
And
yelling at your boy the entire time.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because a lot of, there are moms that do that. It's like, do what I said because I said to, and
Yeah.
don't question me. And it depends on cultural, sometimes is a part of it. But I mean, I've heard moms yelling at their boys, and I think like, oh, what are you doing to their spirit?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
these men are gonna end up finding either women like this, or that's the kind of job they're gonna be in where they're spoken to that way. And so, wanting for Isaac more, I knew I needed to show up as as a reflection of what I wanted him to be able to have when he got older too.
Yeah.
But having that really taught me how to be more of a beneficial support in the lives of other men leadership around me. That there isn't a competition.
Yeah.
Like we can work together, and I can uh, more of like a complete picture
Mm-hmm.
working with a male versus like a competitive picture working with a male.
Yeah. And I think that's for Isaac. I think the same would be for my boys. They've been able to grow up and speak their mind and say what they want to say, but there's probably some aspects to that you have, you know, and I want to hear about this. with Isaac growing up, were there times where you're like, no, things got to be done this way, or you have to do it this way? It wasn't always all you could do whatever the fuck you want. You're a
No.
free bird sort of thing, right?
No, and it depends on what it is. Like
Mhm.
obviously if it wasn't going to hurt him. But so for example, like lying was a no-go. It's not like, well, you can just lie and do whatever you want. Like,
Yeah.
no, that's a life principle you have to know. Like lying's not okay. And I hear all kids go through a phase where they push and see where they can get away with certain lies. And so he was letting the dog out, and we lived in a community, so you have to pick up the dog poop if you're out,
Mhm.
So he comes back in and the little bag isn't any different. So I know he hasn't picked up the dog poop. So
Mhm.
I say, did you pick up the dog poop? Yes. I'm like, okay. So I eventually get to the place where he tells the truth because I'm not letting up. Like, I'm not going to let you lie to me.
Yeah.
With Isaac, it was a matter of teaching him then that lying's not okay, but not like lying's not okay. I'm going to take your TV from you. Lying's not okay. Now you have to, now you have to see what it's like to be on the other end of a lie or not doing what you said you're going to do. So
Yeah.
you have to pick up
So you
dog
made him
poop.
eat shit.
Well, he probably felt like it was that bad. I made him go pick up all the dog poop in the community that other people didn't pick up.
Yeah.
And it was like, hey,
great.
well, if you don't pick it up, you're saying it's essentially somebody else's responsibility.
Yep.
And so, there were 2 lessons in that. You're not going to lie. And you have to fix what you were lying about. But this is funny. When like the lying thing,
Yeah.
I would pick up like a book on lying and make him write it out. Like, like write an essay about why lying is out of integrity.
Okay.
And so
That's
like
good.
those were his types of punishment. So he had to like learn
Yeah.
about why lying's bad.
God,
not
that sounds
just here.
awful.
It was terrible for him.
Yeah.
but
For him.
not really.
For him.
But not really. Cause today it's like, he's very honest and he's very emotionally intelligent. So it worked.
I think that's actually super important. Well, I've heard more recently shit like that. If you are a tough mom or if you are a tough dad, you're some sort of, especially on the male side, you have like some sort of toxic masculinity and you can't be machismo. So you've raised Isaac to be the man that you want him to be, or at least I hope to a degree. It sounds like it. He's very accomplished and everything like that. So what does, healthy masculinity look like from a female perspective, I would say, instead of this toxic masculinity fucking bullshit that's being passed around. So what does that look like, you think, from the female point of view?
For specifically the entrepreneurship space. This is interesting because I was just having this conversation with a girlfriend yesterday. And I was talking about how I am surrounded by healthy masculine men and how absolutely fantastic it is because it allows me to soften and be in a role that I really enjoy, but I don't carry the intensity of the pressure. I have a sense of responsibility with my roles, but I don't carry the intensity that I'm not really the weight. I'm not really supposed to carry that. I'm not built to carry that. And so being in the role that I am with Genesis and us working on the skincare line and the stuff I'm doing with ecom, the men that are positioned as the leaders in my life are healthy in the sense that they communicate effectively. Speaking of you as one of those people, communicate effectively. If I fuck something up, you're going to let me know, but you do it with a sense of care and kindness, not like, you're super dumb for doing that, even if it was a dumb thing to do, not putting me down personally, but like, hey, this was not the best way to do this. This is how we need to do it. So correction, like healthy correction without it being demeaning. And there's not this sense of ego, like I have to do it all. I'm the one telling everybody what to do, but also a sense of freedom, which I'm experiencing with the skincare line. Like even with the name, it was like, you pick the name, you're telling me you pick the name, and it's like, you probably could have picked the name if I was like, I don't want to pick the name, but you're like, no, you do it. Like, let me help support you in being in a role that's like great for you and seeing your passions come through. And I think that's very healthy when a man can help support a woman in shining and being her absolute best and being in a position to show up as the most authentic person she is, I think that's very healthy as a man and a natural providing. Like there's a it's very similar in marriage, any male female relationship. I think healthy masculinity naturally wants to provide and do for the feminine. And that's a very healthy thing. It's like, even when I brought things back over that Steph let me borrow for the babies,
Hmm.
it was like, you're not letting me go out to my car and bring all those things in myself. Like, you're coming out to my car to grab those things and bring them in the house. Like, am I capable of carrying toys from my car to the house? Absolutely. But did you let me do that? No, you did it.
Hmm.
So it's like that's a sense of healthy masculinity, whether it be in personal relationships or business relationships. It's the same energy, I
Yeah,
think.
I think it's really important if you're a male leader leading a bunch of females, and especially if you're a med spa owner or medical clinic owner, you're going to be working with a ton of females always, that you have to be super supportive of them. It doesn't mean you have to be fucking lay down, a lay down boss. Like I can't stand and there's that Netflix show that's out there, and it has what, nine seasons now. It's called Selling Sunset, and all the women in the office are just so fucking catty, and they hate each other and
Mm,
they talk shit about each other all the fucking time, and they argue. And I know it's scripted, but the two owners are brothers and they run the business, and I can't fucking stand them because they just let their staff hate each other and scream at each
mm,
other and talk shit to each other. And every once in a while, like the lion has to come down and fucking roar and tell everybody, like, stop fucking doing that. Like, women sometimes will be catty, men sometimes will be fucking catty. They're just as bad as each other. So, as a leader, you have to be able to speak both to the men and to the women essentially the same way when you have your messaging. And that doesn't mean like you go down there and you only speak and yell in one direction, because again, you may turn off women and you'll hype up the men, and you don't go out there and say, "It's okay, honey, we're going to be okay." Because you're going to fucking turn off the men, and the women will be
mm,
like, "Okay." But you have to be able to address the entire crew, almost unisex language that is both commanding and being a leader, while at the same time being highly communicative. And I don't want to say soft to a degree, but have a way of presenting it that it's not like, "Hey, dumb fuckers, listen to this way." You have to have all of that in one as you're leading and as you're growing. And I think that's really important. What you said is that it's just like a marriage where you have to be as supportive as you possibly can. And I could get better at this always, both in my marriage and with leading a business. But you also have to create some sort of standard for the crew and the staff. You can't all of a sudden one day decide, like, "Hey, today I'm going to be an alpha and I'm just going to yell at people, and if they don't like it, then fuck them." You can't do that, because you're never going to build a giant business.
mhm.
You're going to have a problem recruiting people. You're going to have problems keeping people if you're just consistently shoving that down people's throats. Now, that doesn't mean you cannot come down and fucking execute people in front of everybody every once in a while, because you're going to have to. You're going to have to keep the peace as you grow, because people like to get disgruntled all the time and stuff like that. It's just how they are. Misery loves company, and if we have those poisons, we've talked about cutting them out quickly. But you have to be able to support your partners. You have to be able to support your teammates, support the people in your group, and realize that when you're a business owner and you're running the business, it's not all about fucking you when you're trying to grow them.
Mm,
And I know it's called the Spinoso Show, and I have my Spinoso logos, and we have all that stuff. But when it comes to the business, I'm trying to grow my staff as much as possible, because when you grow your staff, the business will grow. You know, because there's a lot on the shoulders, like you said, it's a lot on the shoulders. It's stressful every single day. I was up till 1 a.m. last night doing some work, trying to finish things up, and today I'm back back at it again every single day. It's something new, more fires to be put out, more things to carry, more stuff to put on our backs. And it's just part of that you have to be masculine. You have to
mhm.
fucking be able to take on the world, and you have to think that you're one of the best at doing it, or else you'll never fucking be anything great. At the same time, you have to support your staff and know that they'll be great, And without you, they might do okay. But if you're doing everything you possibly can, they'll do great with you.
Yeah, I think it releases different things hormonally speaking in the body for men and women. Like, for example, maybe I'm not a hormone expert. However, I have read studies that say that men release oxytocin when they're playing with their kids,
Mhm.
where women release oxytocin when they're nurturing their kids. And so for you, it makes sense why it takes about 6 months. That's when babies can actually do things.
Mhm. Yeah,
That's when they're
that's true.
interacting, and
That's
that's when
true.
you can teach them to roll over or crawl or walk or do pull-ups or
Yeah,
whatever
they're
it
not
is.
useless. Yeah,
Yeah, like they're not just laying
yeah,
there.
yeah.
And so there's a little play that's happening. And, and for moms, it's that nurturing. So, in business, there's probably a very similar feeling. So, like as a woman, when I'm nurturing and caring for the people on our team, there's a natural oxytocin boost happening for me. And when you're like doing more, which actually could be kind of fun to think about, when you're doing more of that, like play in the sense of like when we do our corporate meetings and we're all going out to do something, or like you're able to provide that experience for our teams, what that does for you, like how that actually feels in the body. I guess that's more of a question. Like, do you feel something different when you're providing like our corporate events and you've got this whole thing planned
Oh,
out and
absolutely.
everyone's having a blast?
It's very it fills us up. Brent and I talk about this all the time, that every single time we have a corporate event, that's what helps Brent and I kind of like refuel for the next 6 months, because we see people enjoying it. We see, being able to provide experiences that they wouldn't pay for themselves or do themselves, or when we go to get box seats at John Mayer, or when we go to different types of events, or like this one we're going to, the largest 5-star resort in the country. That's really cool for us. It's an ego boost for sure, because we're like, oh man, we did this. This is fucking cool, and we always compare it to the one unnamed CEO, and I is unnamed because I don't know his fucking name, but they wrote a news article about him where he rented Disneyland for everybody in his company for a whole day. Like he
Wow.
fucking it wasn't a day because it was like after hours. So it was like they closed it down at like 5 p.m. and from 5 p.m. to like 5 a.m. or whatever, he had rented out fucking Disneyland, like the whole fucking place
Wild.
for his company. And it was 10,000 people, I think, that went and stuff. So I mean, it was obviously a massive, massive company. But those are goals. Like that's a goal. I would love to be able to drop that type of money to rent Disneyland for a night and be like, bring your families. Like you do whatever you want. Everything's free.
Yeah.
That's freaking awesome. Or being able to. There was another thing that I always think about in the back of my mind. Another video where a business had done, I think, $11 billion and totally surpassed all of their goals and everything. So they gave everyone a bonus check for their entire year's worth of pay at the end of the year.
Oh my
So
goodness.
like some big changes like that, big things,
Yeah.
and I always want to create more, millionaires and create more wealthy people from our company than Apple has. And obviously that's a huge undertaking, and it continues to be a huge undertaking. We'll always be chasing a company like Apple, but that's what I think I like to compare ourselves to, where we're just like a speck. We're tiny. We're not making, I mean, Apple does in an hour what we do an entire year at this point. And we're getting there. We're getting closer and closer, but there's always the next level to get to, I think.
Yeah. And the thing is we're talking about our children and entrepreneurship and teams and employees, and we don't want to treat our employees like children. But we do want to consider them family, and you often say they are like, this is your family. So it's like everybody in here is like your kids. And so what do you think is the biggest lesson that you're able to take as a parent into being an entrepreneur and having employees?
I think that one of the funniest things that I tell everybody, and I tell my managers this all the time, and I'll tell everybody, so it's no secret, is that your staff are literally like your staff are exactly like kids. They are going to You're going to tell them something 17 fucking times and they're not going to get it. And maybe the 18th time they'll be like, "Oh, I understand X equals Y." And you have to repeat yourself over and over and over. And as a manager and as a leader,
Mm.
I was told something a long time ago in that the only person who's going to get tired of you repeating yourself is yourself. Otherwise, they're going to maybe hear it half the time and implement it a quarter of the time. And then they're going to understand, oh, that's why he was saying to do that after like the 40th time that you told them and they all of a sudden didn't do it. One of the biggest things is we launched this company, DEFCON 1 Marketing. It was our client relations manager, or CRM, which works all of the leads automatically. But at the same time, we also told the staff to call each one of the leads that come in to book. And we had that system up for probably a good 6 to 8 months before anybody actually logged in and learned how to fucking use it. And it was partially our fault because, again, we weren't like a teacher. We're like, these are children. When we launch something, have steps of how to learn it, all the different SOPs on how to do it, go through training with it, all important things we didn't fucking do. So I get that. But then sometimes your employees won't go to the next level and be like,
Mhm.
I'm just going to try and figure this out. So they just didn't use it because they didn't think it was important because we didn't teach them how to do it and tell them, hey, this is fucking important. So for 6 months, this thing is doing its thing, working its leads. And there was a drop in the amount of bookings and things like that with an increase in the amount of leads. It was because nobody was fucking calling them like we told them to. And then all of a sudden people were like, they discovered this. And they're like, oh my God, this is a great tool. Like, why haven't I been using this? Well, I fucking told you 7 times. Like, what do I have to do? And I realized that really your employees and your teammates are like children. You have to teach them over and over and over. You have to have steps. X plus Y equals Z. This is why it equals Z. This is why it's important that it equals Z. And this is why it's important for you that this equals Z, so that you realize that they're not working for you, they're working for themselves. Why is it important for them to do this in
Mm.
their income or their career path or whatever, that they figure out that X plus Y equals Z and they use DEFCON marketing that we had in our program. And then that's when people started to get it. And so that's why now we used to move, and we still do move really, really fast with new implementations and new things and new this and new that. But at the same time, we always have to remember now, and I always have to remember now, like I can't just fucking launch something anymore and expect the staff to get it, especially now that we have hundreds of staff members, without actually training them, without showing them why, without showing them the how. All those different steps need to be put in place fucking before we fucking do it, because
Mhm.
otherwise the staff won't do it because they won't think it's important. They won't know how it is going to improve their lives, improve the business, any of that stuff. So we've had to kind of move slower now, which is okay. But at the same time, it helps us to move faster because once we do roll it out, they fucking understand it. And instead of sitting for 6 months, they're like, okay, we're going to do this now because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is like baby steps,
Absolutely.
baby steps with staff and employees, because you have to take it in small bites and teach them one thing, but make sure they really know how to crawl before they walk so that they can run. And yeah, so there's just that process with building teams and your entrepreneurs or your employees as an entrepreneur.
Yep. You're absolutely right. I mean, you're going to have to do things one at a time. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I see entrepreneurs make mistakes on. And this is actually studied. They did a study where people went to these self help or these life improvement seminars and they followed them afterwards. And they found out that only 4% of people actually did anything or made any changes
Mm.
based off of what they learned at the seminar. 96% of people didn't. Well, it's because what they found out was the 4% who did make changes went and made changes to their home life or changes to their surroundings or how they acted or whatever. They did something to actually change their environment. And the other 96% went back and had their environment stay the same. The second thing they did really well, which is very important, is they did one small thing at a time. And then once that one small thing was done, they moved on to the second one,
Mm.
and so on and so forth. So instead of having 24 projects at once going on in your business, or you go to a seminar and you learn 6 different things and you try and implement all fucking 6 at once, do one thing. Obviously, your business, if it was working before, it's going to continue to work. So fixing or changing or improving one thing is not going to crush your business. But I'll tell you what will, fucking fixing 6 things. Now, if you're hemorrhaging money and the ship is on fire, you probably have to fix 6 fucking things in order to get it in the right direction. But you don't need to do 6 things at once, confusing your staff, trying to teach them all of these things at the same time, trying to have them figure out how it works into their day or their life or whatever. Do one thing, do it well, or fuck it up and say, oh, that doesn't work in our system. Let's try the second thing. Do it well. Third thing, do it well, and at least give it time. I would say if you're really looking at amount of time it takes, if it's something very simple, it could be 2 weeks. And you're like, okay, this new system works at 2 weeks. It could be, 4 to 6 months if it's a big system that you need to change the entire way you sell, the entire way you onboard, all those things. You've been building an onboarding system for Genesis with Sean, and before that with me, and it's been a year and a half. It's a big undertaking. It's everybody who's literally going to get hired are going to go through this fucking training system. Now we have hundreds and hundreds of staff members. It has to be robust. It has to take that long. Things like changing marketing words or changing this or that or sales language or here's another way to sell these things can be done in a week, can be done in 2 weeks, and then you can test it.
Yeah.
So it's having those ideas of pushing them out consistently, making sure that your kids, your employees are listening and providing them directions as to why.
Yeah. And they're not going to get it the first time.
Yep.
And that's okay.
And just be okay
as
with
an
that.
entrepreneur, being okay, repeating yourself.
Yep.
And teaching. It's
Absolutely.
really a teaching.
It's exactly
Yeah.
what it is. You are
Yeah.
teaching. You're consistently teaching.
And you're teaching to maturity. You think with your kids, they start out with one level of awareness and you see that develop over an 18-year period until they're an adult. But it's the same thing with your employees. A lot of these people are coming in with little to no experience and we're training them. So it's a process. But one of the things I've seen with Genesis that I think is key is the fact that we do promote from within. We get people. I mean, a few of our clinic directors started out as MAs. So it's like you start out in one position and you teach them and you watch them grow and you watch them develop. And, they start to have their own thoughts and their own ideas and their own personality that they're bringing to the table. And then they can move into greater levels of leadership within the company. And I think that's really valuable too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely the truth. Well, moving forward to the last question, I want to ask this because I want to ask it both with Isaac and then I want to ask it now with Elia. What is a good story that involves Isaac and him growing up and then Elia and now her? She's not really grown up. She's got 6 months under her belt. She could sit up now. Could she sit up now?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
good. She could carry that
She's
big
almost crawling.
big old
Yesterday when I was
bobblehead.
filming the podcast,
Yeah.
she had her first scoots forward.
Scoots. Oh,
Mhm.
nice. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Dragging the butt.
Yeah. Well, no, she was on her knees.
Oh, yeah?
She was on her knees
Oh,
and
nice. Kinda doing it?
scooted forward a few inches and then face planted.
That's awesome.
But laughed.
There you go.
She didn't mind. Yeah.
What is a story with each of them that you think would be important or taught you a lesson that you used later in business or in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, with Isaac, that this is an easy one, and I've told this before, but if somebody hasn't caught it, it's getting him involved in personal development very early on. I think as a mom, it's like not being in the mom identity and disassociating from I'm mom and seeing him as a human being and somebody who's here to have his own experience in this life and then helping support him to that. So what does he want to be? Who does he want to be? How does he want to show up? And then providing those tools for him to do that. So I think that was the key thing for Isaac.
How did you do that? So not to cut you off,
No, it's okay.
because parents are probably thinking, well, how the fuck do I do personal development with my kids? What do I do? Do I just yell at them?
Well, funny is because I can picture this happening. Isaac was about 6 when he first started expressing anger, and he would kick the couch.
Hmm. Yeah.
Just like, kick the couch. And it wasn't really hurting anything. It's
Hmm.
not like he was kicking the dog,
Yeah.
So I'm like, I would sit down with him and, what are you feeling? Well, I feel frustrated. I don't even know if he had words for it at that time. Like, but sitting down and exploring for him, what are you feeling? And okay, I feel that way too sometimes. I get angry or I get, whatever, whenever we get to the place of him identifying what it is he's really kicking the couch for.
Yeah.
And, I would relate to him. I sometimes want to throw a plate across the kitchen. I understand
Hmm.
what you're feeling and I don't do it
Yeah.
because here's what's important: controlling your emotions, understanding your emotions, feeling your emotions, so it starts early with just giving some awareness around the emotions that they could be feeling, especially little boys, because there's so much. Well, I guess in little girls too. I haven't raised a little girl to that point yet, so I
Yeah.
don't know what's coming. But
Right.
based off what you're saying with Bella, it's coming.
Yeah.
But teaching him how to have all of those feelings, but manage them in a healthy way.
Mm.
And I would often ask him like, well, what do you think about that? And then let him say whatever he's thinking, even if it's, if I'm having a conversation with you, let's say, and he's sitting here, not excluding him from the conversation, but like we're talking and then bringing him in. Isaac, what do you think about what we're talking about? In a very early age. And he might have some random thing he throws in there, but he still feels like his voice is valid and his opinion matters. And so that is how it starts. And then when he's old enough to actually be in a personal development program, put him into something
Mm.
and something age appropriate. That avatar course that I'm involved in, they have you can go at any age, but all of the teenagers work together.
Mm.
So he's not working with an adult on any of the material. He's working with peers. So, they're all talking about things going on at school
Yeah.
or things with their parents. And helping him see that like his beliefs are creating his experience. So things that he needed to work on around how his relationship was with his father, like recognizing that his perception of what he thinks his dad is doing,
Mm.
is still his perception. And same thing. And the nice part is working with peers, he was able to work on things, whatever they were, that I did. But that opened up space later for him to tell me, like, I didn't understand this when you did this, but I get it now.
Got it.
Or, it just
Yeah.
allowed him to have his own experience in this life. And I think that going to entrepreneurship, that's what you have to do with employees. Everybody is here from a very esoteric standpoint to create the experience they're meant to have in this life. So whatever it is, if we even have disgruntled employees or people that don't fit with the core values, they're here to experience that because there's a lesson in it for them. So letting them go is an important part of their journey because there's something they're supposed to learn in that. And there's something that we're supposed to learn. Everything's a co-creation.
Yeah.
And so I think that goes both. It's like seeing with employees and teammates, what is it that they're meant to experience? You're great at this. Like, what do you love doing? And, where do you shine? And what's your genius zone? And putting people in that space.
Yeah.
And then allowing them to really have the experience that they need to have to learn and grow and develop and, mature into something more.
Yeah.
And with Elia, I don't know yet, but I'll do the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll do it probably with a lot more awareness now because, when I was doing it with Isaac, I also was just getting started
Mm-hmm.
in real deep in personal development. Now I've been in it for year, 20 years. So Elia has a more mature approach coming from me at
Okay.
this point. But I'll do all the same things
Yeah.
because I even now look at her as like she's a sovereign being. And even though she's a baby, she's a human and she's here to experience this life in a very unique way. And I don't know what that is.
Mm.
And just because I'm her mom doesn't mean I'm going to somehow put her in this box of what I think her experience needs to be. It'll come out like I'll know as we go what her role in this life is supposed to look like. And then my responsibility is to support that. And I think that that's the same thing with employees. Like they come on board, we start to figure out where are they great? Are they great in sales? And then we support that role for them to really show up and shine in sales or in customer service. We have people in some of our companies that don't want to sell,
Right.
so we don't put them in a sales role. That would be silly. But we have people that kick ass at sales, so they're going to be in a sales role. And it's the same thing with kids. It's
Yeah.
putting them where they're meant to be and supporting their journey.
Absolutely. Yeah, I used to. It's funny that you say that because I used to, act out in anger as well when I was a kid, and I used to like kick the couch and stuff like that. And I remember one day I kicked the couch, and my dad had dressed up as the couch, and he just beat the shit out of me. And so
You never did
I
it
just never
again.
kicked the couch again. Yeah,
It's good parenting.
yeah, pretty much opposite of what maybe that understandable, but I remember that couch. And then he came in later that night and then just continued to beat me. And I just knew, like, don't fucking kick the couch. That couch is coming for you. And sometimes I still have nightmares about that couch, but you know what? I learned my lesson.
You should dress up as a couch for our next corporate meeting.
Well, I kind of sometimes think like that. I think
Mhm.
it's important for people to understand the metaphor there, really. You can't, you could sit on me, but that doesn't mean I'm just going to take it lying down. Yeah, I'm not a lazy boy. No, that's absolutely incredible. I mean, honestly, it's the same. I think with my kids that you have with Elia is that they're so young that you're still learning. You're just trying to figure it out. And I've gotten so many parenting books from so many friends, and they're like, "This is good, and that's good, and that's good." I haven't read a fucking one of them. I'm just like, fucking figure it out. We all suck at it anyways, right? It's just how it is. Everybody now has had some childhood trauma. My dad asked the other day when he came home, he's like, "Do you have some trauma?" I was like, "I probably fucking do." Yeah, we fucking all do. Guess
Mhm.
what? It just happens. Like, I'm not gonna go back and get fucking therapy about it and open up that shit because it's not bothering me now. And people are like, well, maybe it's holding back your aura from growing. No, fuck that. I don't need to go back. There's no need to look back. There's no need to go back and move forward, continue to improve and grow. And I'm excited for my kids, and the same as I'm excited for my business. You just treat them as well as you possibly can. And sometimes your kids will hate you, and that's just part of it. And sometimes they love you, and you just hope the best for them. That's it,
Mhm.
really. All right, guys, that's it that we have for you today. If you have any other questions, please email us at questions at dralexspinoso.com. As always, thank you, Miss Amanda May. Check her out at Amanda May Beauty Boss. Check me out at Dr. Alex Spinoso. And we'll look forward to the next one.